hope this can help you review for your Testable Twos quiz coming up on Wednesday. I'm just going to go through each one of the answers, and I'll circle them on the screen so you can see the answers as well. Which of these is a way to communicate the results of an investigation? The best way to communicate results would be with graphs and diagrams. Qualitative observations come at the beginning of an experiment, and controlling variables are part of every investigation. That wouldn't be the part where you communicate them. And drawing conclusions is an aspect, it's a part of communicating your results, but you have to draw your conclusions and then put them out there for people to see, and this is the way that you're going to put them out there for people to see. A volcano eruption, ashes, block out sunlight for 4 months. Hypothesize what situation would most likely occur. Well, we talked about this one in classes, with a few of the classes, about how the sunlight would definitely affect the plants, and which that would also affect the animals. Plants and animals would eventually die is the best answer. The animal population is not going to increase over something like that severe happening to an ecosystem, and the plant population would die. Yes, they would, but the things that feed off of the plant population are animals, so they would need the plants also, so that's not the best answer there. And moving on to day 2, some spiders capture insects in their sticky webs for food. If the insect population died, what could happen to the spider population? Well, the spider population would also have an effect, because this is their food source. They are predators to insects, so the spider population would not increase, it would actually decrease. Decrease means go down, so the spider population would also decrease. It's definitely going to be affected, and that's just a silly, crazy response. Ignore those. Spin different webs, does that make any sense? So B, the spider population would decrease, is the best answer. Which of these is true of matter? Matter has mass and it has volume, and those are the two things that you always have to remember about matter. So the best answer that goes along with that is that it has mass and it takes up space, which means volume. My mouse drawing. It does take up space, yes, but it does have mass, and this one's the flip-flop, so those are both incorrect, and it says it doesn't have either, and that is not true, we know that. So it has mass and it takes up space, and it has volume. Day 3, a student holds a penny out in front of him. With his left hand, he lets go of the penny. How will the penny move? It will move down. We talked about this in class, and a lot of people said, oh, but Ms. Murphy, I mean, it might move left or right or up. And I said, well, it might, but the immediate question is, when you drop the penny out of your hand, how's that penny going to move? It's going to go down. Miss Smith and her water, she waters her lawn the same amount each week with the same lawn sprinkler, but some weeks her grass grows tall and others it doesn't. She likes to mow her grass when it isn't too long, so choose the variable that might cause her grass to be different lengths at different times. Since they said a couple of the controls in here were that she uses the same lawn sprinkler, that can't be a reason because she uses the same one, and she waters her lawn the same amount each week. So that's not even an option on here, but those are both of the controls in here. And the other things that might affect or be a variable in this experiment that might cause her grass to be different lengths at different times would not be the grass type, because the grass type, I mean, you're not going to use a different grass type in part of your lawn and a different on the other side, or else they would have mentioned that in the problem. The amount of sunshine definitely will. The time to mow the grass is what she's actually looking for in this experiment. So the thing that could be affecting it, or could be manipulating this experiment a little bit, would be the amount of sunlight that it gets. Real quick on the cells, because we just kind of went through this in class, but the cell wall is found only in a plant cell, as well as the chloroplast. Those are the green agents right there that keep the plant green, and this is the hard structure that keeps the plant rigid and have that structure. Other than that, the other items are found in all of these cells, plant and animal cells. We talked a lot about the nucleus is the brain right here. The nucleus is the brain, and that the vacuole stores stuff for the cell, and the cytoplasm is that jelly-like stuff that keeps all the organelles up in the cell. And the cell membrane is like the skin of the cell. It's the flexible outer covering that things come in and out of. So the only things that are in one category and not the other would be the cell wall and the chloroplasts are only in plant cells. Next question. While we may call these different names when they're found in the ocean floor, which of these is not a feature of the ocean floor? And we talked a lot about this one. The dunes are not a part of the ocean floor. Volcanoes can be called seamounts. They can be called underwater volcanoes. You can call them Hawaii, because that is a great example of an underwater volcano. The canyons are found in the ocean floor, but we call them trenches, and the abyssal plains are also found on the ocean floor. But dunes are not. Those are the sandy structures that people build on our beaches. Some are naturally formed, but mainly they're built and kept there, so those are not found on the ocean floor. Which of these does not describe the particles in a solid? Solid particles do vibrate back and forth in space. They do not spread out very easily, and they are very close together. So those statements are all true. The fact that they never move is one of those old, misconceptions that I think a lot of us had, that the particles in the solid are vibrating. They're just so slight that you can't even see it with your own eyes. So they are moving just very slightly. And speed is an object's change over a certain amount of time. So how far an object is traveling in a certain amount of time. These elements all go into it, but not one in isolation. They all need to go in together to talk about the distance that you're traveling in a certain amount of time. And day 6 of Testable Twos, a student asked, how does changing the temperature of an object affect how fast it falls? Which of these could be a hypothesis? That's a key word. Who cares what the experiment is? Which could of these be the prediction that states an actual outcome, that states what will happen in the experiment? And we kind of bounced around with these, but we said that the greater the temperature, the faster an object falls was the best answer, because this one doesn't even, they all have to do with the temperature changing during an experiment, and we're talking about how temperature would affect how fast it falls, not the temperature going to change while it falls, anything like that. So this is the best answer to answer that question. All living and non-living things that surround an animal are part of its ecosystem. That's your big 5th grade word this year. Food chains have to do with what things are eating what. Life cycle has to do with how things, I don't want to confuse you there. How things mold and shape and change throughout their lives. And a population is just one specific group of living things in an ecosystem. All the living and non-living things, the abiotic and biotic factors are a part of the ecosystem, the object ecosystem, or whatever we're talking about. In your science lab, your teacher handed you a bunch of materials, and she said you were to create a model. You were to include trenches, rifts, continental shelf, continental rise, continental slope, and the mid-Atlantic ridge. And we talked about this one earlier on this week, that you would best be creating the ocean's surface. The moon's surface would just be like craters, sun would be hot and fiery, I don't even know how you'd do that. And the Earth's surface would have canyons and mountain ranges and all these things. So ocean surfaces is the best one. These are all your ocean landforms that we'll study a lot later. Cereals are made up of, is made up of many different ingredients. The diagram below shows all these ingredients. Which term best describes the cereal? Which one of these? Compound? Nope. Compounds would be like hydrogen and oxygen have come together so completely to form water that they're compounds. They chemically combined into their atom. An element would be like a raw element, nope, like oxygen. Mixtures and solutions are between these two. A solution is something that combines so completely you can't see it with even your own eyes. And in this case, this would be a mixture, because we could see these parts. We could separate this if we wanted to and all that good stuff. And a solution that combines so completely we can't tell the items apart. A boy uses a bat to hit a softball with a certain amount of force. Then he hits the ball with a greater mass with the same amount of force. What best describes the ball with a greater mass, its movement compared to the softball? The one with the greater mass is not going to go as fast. It's going to be a slower moving ball because it has more mass, which is going to slow it down a lot. The moving company is filling up these boxes. They need to know what items would be needed to find out how the mass is affecting the distance. So if we're talking about mass, and if we're talking about distance, the thing that measures mass is a balance, and the thing that measures distance is a ruler or a yardstick or any of those things. So the best answer on this list is balance and ruler. Number 9, which is a freshwater ecosystem? The only freshwater, totally freshwater, is a lake. An estuary is a combination of fresh and salt water. We call it brackish water. Salt marsh, same deal there, usually more salty. And an ocean is salt water. So a lake is the best answer. They're found inland. These are all on the coast or off the coast. The Grand Canyon, it shows the size of the different layers of rock. Which statement best describes how the Grand Canyon was formed? The Grand Canyon once had a waterfall. Now, we kind of went through that we said maybe it did. Maybe that's a possibility, but that's not the one that describes the whole formation of the whole canyon. Big rainstorms washing out rock of the canyon, maybe it plays a role, but it's not the only thing. A flowing river cut between it is actually the best answer. And your last one, the evaporation separates the parts in a mixture by changing the liquids into a gas and leaving behind the solid particles. Friction is different from magnetism and gravity because it is different from magnetism and gravity because it only affects objects that are touching. It is a force. It can't really be seen, but neither can these two things. Well, I guess it depends on the way we view that question, but and it can affect the motion of an object. Of course, it slows it down. So those are your questions. Study, study, study.